I did a video last week on Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. I'm usually against teams committing over 13% of their salary cap to the quarterback. So the premise of my video last week was actually going against that point that I make all the time on this channel and proving that Russell Wilson is the exception to that rule. That he is worth every penny that the Seahawks are paying him. Because Russell Wilson is the Seattle Seahawks. That without him, this team is 5-11, 6-10. Apparently, Pete Carroll and the Seahawks realized this same point. Maybe they even saw my video and said to themselves, hey, this guy's a genius. We need to go out and get some help for Russell Wilson. I doubt that's what happened. I know that's not what happened. They're a lot smarter than I am, but there's no harm in wishful thinking, right? Throughout most of the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era in Seattle, the Seahawks have been known for their dominant defense. Since Russell Wilson's been in Seattle, the Seahawks have been number one defensively several times. Top 10 most years. It wasn't until Seattle began to pay Russell Wilson big money that the defense began to decline. And some of that had to do with the old Legion of Boom defense getting older too. 2017, Seattle ranked 13th defensively. 2018, 11th. Last season, the Seahawks had the worst defense in the Russell Wilson era. They were ranked 22nd overall. They were near the bottom of the league in pass defense. Russell Wilson literally carried this team into the playoffs. They had to go out and get Marshawn Lynch because they didn't have any running backs left over. Which is why I made the point that Russell Wilson is the exception to the rule when it comes to paying quarterbacks. The Seahawks have had a disastrous offseason. There's no other way around it. They let Jadeveon Clowney walk in free agency after Russell Wilson begged them to bring him back to Seattle. They are cash-strapped in terms of the salary cap. But they found a way to shore up the secondary, at least temporarily, at least in the short term. They had to get creative to do it. But they made a trade with the Jets to bring in one of the best safeties in the NFL in Jamal Adams. So what we're going to do today, we're going to look at this trade from the Seahawks perspective and the Jets perspective. Now, I don't like giving out grades. We're not in high school. We're not in middle school. So I'm not going to give a letter grade to the Jets, say they got an A, and Seattle an F. We're not going to do that. But we are going to determine who got the better end of this deal and what impacts this deal could have on the future of the Jets and the Seahawks. We're going to start with Seattle. I've already outlined that the Seahawks defense desperately needed Jamal Adams in the secondary. His addition alone makes this defense better. And he's coming in for cheap. Seattle got him for cheap. His salary and his cap hit for 2020 is only $825,000. However, I don't like how much the Seahawks had to give up to acquire Jamal Adams and potentially only have him for a year or two. This was a steep price to pay for a safety, not a position that you see teams break the bank for. Seattle gave up a first and third round pick in next year's draft, a first round pick in 2022, and they sent safety Bradley McDougald to the Jets. That is the type of price that you would see a team pay for an elite pass rusher, not a safety. And this could have a drastic impact on the future in Seattle. First of all, there's no guarantee that Jamal Adams stays in Seattle long term. He is still on his rookie contract, so the Seahawks have a team option for 2021. But his salary goes from $825,000 to nearly $10 million. Now, I'm assuming that Pete Carroll didn't send that many draft picks to the Jets for a one-year rental of Jamal Adams. So I imagine Seattle will find a way to pick up that fifth-year option on his contract. But what happens after that? What if Jamal Adams doesn't want to stay in Seattle? He's made it known in the past that he wants to play in Dallas for the Cowboys. Now, I can't imagine why he would want to play for the Cowboys. All they do is consistently lose, but he does, or at least he did in the past. So what are the Seahawks going to do if he wants to play in Dallas? They could franchise tag him, which means that his salary is going to increase exponentially. But do you really want a guy in the locker room that doesn't want to be there? I mean, that's a cause for disaster. That's one of the reasons, the main reason, that the Jets were willing to trade him. We'll get more into that in just a second. The big thing with me here for Seattle is the draft picks that they gave up. Russell Wilson's cap hit of $31 million accounts for about 16% of the cap this year. And the Seahawks are having a difficult time getting him help right now. It's going to get worse the next few years. His cap hit rises to $37 million in 2022, $39 million in 2023. My point in bringing that up, the Seahawks are going to have to build through the draft to stay in playoff contention, to stay in Super Bowl contention, because they're likely to be cash strapped. It's kind of hard to do that, to build through the draft, when you're trading away your most valuable draft picks. Overall, in the big picture, I don't like this trade for Seattle. I think it's great in the short term, but I don't like it long term. Now, the Jets, on the other hand, I love this trade for the Jets. I think General Manager Joe Douglas got away with robbery with this deal. I believe he would have taken less from Seattle just to get Jamal Adams out of town. Now, let's be real here for a second. The Jets right now with Sam Darnold, they are a long-term project. I know they went 6-2 the last half of last season, and there's a little bit of excitement surrounding this franchise, but the Jets aren't playoff contenders this year. Look, the Jets haven't made the playoffs in 9 years. They have cycled through general manager after general manager, head coach after head coach. It's looking like 2020 is a make-or-break season for Adam Gase. But I don't think it's playoffs or bust. As long as there is some improvement in Sam Darnold, and something disastrous doesn't happen, like the Jets go 3-13, 4-12, something like that, I think Adam Gase is going to be fine. God knows this franchise needs some continuity at head coach. So this trade is a win-win for the Jets. First of all, they got rid of a locker room cancer in Jamal Adams. I don't want to call him a locker room cancer. A guy that obviously just didn't want to be there anymore. I mean, he called out Adam Gase a few weeks ago. Said he wasn't the right leader for this Jets team. He called out the owner, Woody Johnson, on some racial accusations. Like I said earlier, he was begging at one point to go play for the Dallas Cowboys while he was a member of the New York Jets. Jamal Adams did everything but sit out the season. He did everything in his power to get out of New York. And it worked. This isn't something that is real common in the NFL. You see it sometimes in the NBA with superstar players wanting to leave a small market team or a losing team to go somewhere and contend for a championship. But this is more of a recent trend in the NFL. We haven't seen this happen very often. The reason I say it's more of a recent trend, we just saw it last year with Jalen Ramsey, where he forced his way out of Jacksonville. And now we're seeing it with Jamal Adams, who forced his way out of New York in a situation that he no longer wanted to be in. Maybe this is going to be more common in the NFL, where players usually have very little power. Maybe players are starting to take some of that power back. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, back to this trade being a win-win for the Jets. Not only do they get rid of Jamal Adams, who, if he stayed there, would have poisoned that young locker room, they now have plenty of draft picks to build this team around Sam Darnold into a legit playoff contender in the future. The Jets are going to have 2 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts, 2021 and 2022. They will have plenty of prime opportunities to fill the holes on this roster. And Christ knows that this team has enough holes that need to be filled. So this trade's a winner right now for the Jets. But we really won't know if this trade will go down in history as a winner or a blunder for the next few years. The key to this trade being effective for the Jets relies on the ability of Joe Douglas to draft well. Now, Jets fans have heard this all before, many times in the past decade. We're going to build through the draft. The problem is, or has been, the Jets have sucked in the draft, at least the past decade or so. The Jets have been god-awful in the draft. Most players drafted by the Jets since 2013 aren't even in the league anymore. I'd sit here and name some of them for you guys, but you either have forgotten about them or you've never heard of them, so it'd just be a waste of time. But this time it could be different for the Jets. They may finally have the right general manager in place. Joe Douglas learned under Ozzie Newsome in Baltimore, Howie Roseman in Philadelphia, two of the best general managers in the NFL the last 10, 15 years. So the Jets finally have a general manager in place that knows what he's doing, or potentially knows what he's doing. We'll find out. He's only got one draft under his belt, and it's too early to determine if those picks are going to pan out. I mean, they haven't even touched the field yet. They just drafted them a few months ago. Overall, though, for this trade between Seattle and the Jets are the clear winners, I think. Seattle basically mortgaged their immediate future for a safety. Granted, one of the best safeties in the league, but for a safety that could potentially be gone in the next 2 years. While the Jets have loaded up on draft picks to build a contender around Sam Darnold. All right, that's all for today. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for me. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Who do you think won this trade? Was it the Seahawks or the Jets? Let me know what you think. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. If you have any questions or a topic you'd like me to cover, you can email me at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next time.